It's not like the Fight Club, it's the Job Club. There's a big difference. You know, the first rule of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club. The first rule of Job Club is you gotta talk about Job Club because it helps people get jobs. And the guy who runs it is here tonight with the Ministry of Occupational Rehabilitation. Seriously, this is great stuff, and I'm looking forward to meeting him this evening, and I hope you are too. Let's go to the rundown and knock down some issues here. Chasing Mr. Corso. It's kind of like fan entertainment for 38 Studios. Trusting Mr. Kilmartin, which was kind of like a what from the House Speaker today. Helping Mr. Almond. You get the Mr. theme we got going on here? Just a little play tonight. That's the former governor who needed some help from me today. Anyway, and then the students were helping themselves, and we are delinquent because she passed 2 days ago and left a mark on America like no other. Let us dig in here and find out what's going on. Yes, so Tim White at it again. Headline, the latest from the Target 12 investigators, the lead investigator Tim White, chasing Mr. Corso. This is Michael Corso. I don't need any, there's no explanation necessary here for me. The news package speaks for itself.
As Target 12 first reported, Michael Corso was poised to make a lot of money from 38 Studios, signing 4 different contracts to work for the company in various capacities. This is Target 12 undercover video of Providence attorney Michael Corso. Despite a contract he signed with 38 Studios, where the company pledged to pay him $300,000 to, among many duties, handle media interactions, he's never returned our calls. We finally tracked Corso down, leaving his Providence law office. Mr. Corso, Tim White from Channel 12.
Tim.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'd like to talk to you about 38 Studios if we could.
Tim. No comment, Tim.
When are we going to get a comment? You've been involved with this for years. We've been trying to get in touch with you.
Tim, you've got my counsel's phone number. We can't talk right now.
Well, you're not a defendant in a lawsuit, Mr. Corso, so why can't you talk? Do you feel at all you owe the people of Rhode Island an apology, Mr. Corso?
No, I didn't do anything wrong, Tim.
So can you stop and explain if you didn't do anything wrong? Corso has been subpoenaed in the state's lawsuit against the architects of the 38 Studios deal, as has his friend and former House Speaker Gordon Fox. Neither are defendants in the case. A spokesperson for the Rhode Island U.S. Attorney's Office says there is no active investigation into 38 Studios, though we're aware of a state probe. No one has been charged in that case. With the Target 12 investigators, Tim White, Eyewitness News.
It is interesting, isn't it, when somebody who's not indicted and not a defendant in a lawsuit can't talk to a reporter even though he's in the middle of the whole mess. My director, Kevin, pointed out something interesting to me as we watched that. How come he goes to the car like he's going to drive away, and then he thinks, I'm not going to the car, and he walks in. Tim White prevented him from going where he needed to go. You know what? If you don't take a little bit of entertainment factor out of the drama of 38 Studios, then you're going to lose your complete sense of humor. That piece was not intended to be funny. I think it's a frustration piece from a journalist who's been trying to get some answers from a guy who's been in the middle of this whole $100 million debacle for a long time. So good work. That door slam is also very effective, don't you think? Boom! On the investigative guy. All right, next item. Trusting Mr. Kilmartin. Mr. Kilmartin is the Attorney General, right? You got a picture of him. All right, so let me tell you a story. Come on, sit down, relax. Danny's going to tell you a story. So this morning I went to the Northern Rhode Island Chamber of Commerce Eggs and Issues breakfast at the Kirkbride Country Club, and House Speaker Nick Mattiello was there to speak, and he spoke for about a half an hour. About 100, 150 people there. Not much media. In fact, I might have been the only one. Tom Ward from the Valley Breeze was there. That's right. And we'll see who else is there if they write something. But anyway, he gives about a half an hour presentation, and about 15 minutes of it at the back end was all about 38 Studios. And all of his arguments for paying the debt on the $100 million that we are out here when it comes to the Kurt Schilling busted deal, right? And he says, listen, there's 2 issues here. One is that we made some dumb moves to get into this thing, and there's an investigation that's necessary on that, but then there's the repayment and our life legacy and economic future and reputation for Rhode Island. So he does that whole little two-step, right? He says, look, on the investigation, I know you're frustrated, I'm paraphrasing. He says, if you don't trust Kilmartin, the Attorney General, then you can trust his white-collar investigative guy. If you don't trust his white-collar investigative guy, you can trust the state police. And I'm thinking, it's an awful, weird, flimsy presentation by a House Speaker to a bunch of business people. So I asked him about it for the radio, and here's the audio. You said something funny. You said, listen, you got to trust somebody in this investigation. Either you trust the Attorney General, the white-collar guy, or the state police. Do you trust the Attorney General, who is a member of your...
Oh, absolutely.
You think this Attorney General is the guy that ought to be running a prosecution if such kind of evidence comes from the state police?
Dan, absolutely. He started the investigation. He's dedicated an experienced white-collar prosecutor to the investigations, and he's collaborating with the state police. So what I suggest is to the extent that there's pessimism or cynicism out there regarding this issue, you've got to trust one of those. I trust all three of them, to be quite frank with you. The Attorney General, I was in the chamber at the time that the loan guarantee program was passed. I am convinced beyond doubt that the Attorney General knew nothing about it other than it was a loan guarantee program.
Listen, the Attorney General's been asleep at the switch. We need a special prosecutor, and that's my point. But anyway, what was also interesting about this thing is that Nick Mattiello said, hey, look, you know, economists, CVS, Amica, the Association of General Contractors have all said, we need to pay this. I thought for sure that some business person from that group would have stood up and peppered the House Speaker with questions, maybe a little debate. Nothing. Nothing on that anyway. Questions on their own business issues, yes, but nothing on 38 Studios, which tells me that this business community, oh, and by the way, the chambers are all endorsing paying this debt too. Everybody has given up, asleep at the switch. The status quo remains, and that's why things don't change. Just a little breakfast. All right, let's. Yesterday, did I mention this yesterday? Sometimes the days run together. You know, there's two candidates for governor on the Republican side, right? One's Ken Block and one's Alan Fung. Well, yesterday, former Governor Lincoln Almond came to the State House and stood up for Alan Fung. We got a little picture of that rolling around here. You know, there he is, and Alan's gazing at him lovingly because, you know, that's what you do for the people who endorse you. Anyway, it was really interesting because Lincoln Almond teed off on Ken Block, who he's never met, he admits, about Ken Block's position on moral obligation bonds, the funding mechanism that got us in trouble with 38 Studios. Listen to what the former governor says about Ken Block, and then I'm going to play you something else. Listen to this.
When I saw Ken Block on TV, I reached out to the mayor and told him what I thought. And I didn't think it was very good. I mean, look at what this guy was saying. He says in his rhetoric, no more moral obligation bonds. Sounds great. You know, really pandering to the voters. If we didn't have moral obligation bonds, we wouldn't have Fidelity. We wouldn't have Southwest Airlines when we had to expand the airport. Moral obligation bonds for a legitimate public purpose are important to government, very important. He has no idea when he says things like that what he's doing and how he's going to manage the state of Rhode Island.
So I'm thinking after hearing that, I don't think that's what Ken Block thinks. And lo and behold, only 2 weeks ago on Newsmakers, he was asked about the different kinds of funding mechanisms. Listen to this.
These bonds that benefit private industry, that skirt taxpayer scrutiny, are bad. When they're revenue backed, like airport bonds and other types of issuances like that, those are fine, okay? Revenue bonds issued by our quasis are okay. But this particular type of deal, the straight up moral obligation bond with very high risk to benefit specific industries, what we've learned is that the insiders who do these deals don't have the taxpayers' best interests in mind, and we have to stop that.
Interesting. Link Almond thinks that we have to stop that too. And Ken Block actually agrees with Link Almond about transportation kinds of revenue bonds and the like. Link Almond didn't do any homework. Alan Fung didn't tell him about it. There's three issues here. The power of endorsements. If you're going to endorse, you better be right about what your criticism is. That's number one. Number two, do your homework. And number three, Alan, what are you sitting there watching him kind of like mistakenly go on about Ken Block for? Because that hurts your credibility. And 5 or 7, how about the media and the press kind of following up and saying, oh, Gov, by the way, you got it wrong. Silly season is what they call politics. Quickly, this is not silly. This is great. They were here before. Here's the headline in the Providence Journal. Student activists with bus pass issue, win bus pass issue. I'm proud of these kids. They came to this studio and other places. They took elected officials on a walking tour this winter because they got to walk way too far to school. Here was an excerpt from, when was this, Jess? This was in March. How far are you walking to school?
2.2.
Really? Every day?
No, actually, I get 2 turn roadies, which is enough for 2 weeks of a month. The rest of it, I need a hustle or just find
You need a hustle?
Find a way to get to school or go walking.
Yeah, well, have you walked during the winter?
Yes, I have.
And so what time you got to be in, what high school are you going to?
Central.
How long does it take you?
It takes me an hour exactly.
An hour?
Yes.
Crazy. They got the walking distance down from 3 miles to 2.5 this year, and they're going to look at 2 miles for next year. That's student activism, constructive student activism, and I applaud them. Good job for the young people fighting for themselves. And finally, Maya Angelou passed away this week, and I just thought I'd just offer a thought. I mean, everybody knows her. She passed away in her mid-80s. What a life lived. How powerful was she? Listen to her.
Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise into a daybreak miraculously clear.
You know, politics aside, she left a signature on America that is undeniably important. It's a legacy. And by the way, I'm told that she was a really nice person. I have a friend who did some legal work for her and said, you know what? She treated people exceptionally well. God bless her. Godspeed. Life extremely well lived. When we come back, Job Club. It ain't the Fight Club. We got to talk about it. You don't talk about Fight Club. We'll be right back. When I saw this story in the paper, I said, Jess, we got to get this guy. Take a look at this headline. Job Club RI, beacon of hope for unemployed. What a fascinating experience this must be for Steve Colella. Welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
You were almost a priest.
Almost.
Well, you got a ministry going here, and you view it that way, don't you?
We certainly do. This is, that's how it started, as a volunteer operation and organization.
All right, set the scene real quick. You do what for a living?
I'm a vocational counselor. I work at University of Massachusetts Commonwealth Medicine.
Which means a vocational counselor, you instruct people on what they ought to be doing with their lives professionally, how to change, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden in October 2009, you decided to do what?
Well, when the economy started to really tank in this state, I felt that, you know, I wanted to do something in the community as a volunteer. And I initially thought about starting a support group. But, you know, there's a lot of negativity in this state, and I didn't want to spend 2 hours every Monday night talking about what was me. So being a trained vocational counselor, I thought, why couldn't I teach a job searching format over a 6-week program? Each week we cover a different topic, resume writing, cover letters, interviewing.
So a job searching program over a 6-week period of time. Was that, obviously that comes from your basic training, correct? And your professional skills.
Yes.
So you said, okay, I'm not going to sit around and have coffee or beers and have people just go, oh, you know, hi, I'm Joe, I'm unemployed, right?
That's right.
Okay, so what happened?
Well, at first we started.
How'd you get people to know about it?
Well, the library, the West Warwick Public Library, had a lot to do with, you know, early on, and they still do.
That's where you're doing it?
That's right.
Okay.
I always believed that, you know, the library is free. There's no barriers. Everyone's welcome. We turn no one away. And they welcomed this idea wholeheartedly. We went before their board of directors in June of 2009. We started October 1st, 2009. We had 6 people. 3 got jobs. And for the first year...
How did that 3 get jobs? How do I, was just like, you know, bewitched? What happened?
Through efforts, that contacts I had made for them, sending them job leads and follow-up. I do a lot of job lead development for these folks. Most of my time and my research is spent on research and job development.
Okay, so 6 people show, 3 get jobs, and now What have you built here, sir?
Well,
a monster.
We've got 33 major employers involved in the program. Over 600 individuals since 2009 have completed at least one 6-week job club program. And for those individuals who've completed that, at least one 6-week program, we've got a 66% success rate with an average wage of between $23 and $25 an hour, in spite of no funding, no money, being 100% volunteer, and operating in a state that's got the highest unemployment in the country. We've got 33 major employers involved in this program who assist our folks with finding meaningful living wage jobs, because I can't hire anyone. I need their help. So when I go out and talk with employers about the program, I tell them I've got semi-skilled and skilled folks. Would you at least be willing to take a look at them? Doesn't mean they're going to hire them, doesn't even necessarily mean they're going to interview them, but they're going to acknowledge them. And when you acknowledge a job seeker who spends 3 or 4 hours a day firing off cover letters and resumes with no response, that does wonders for their psyche. Even though they may not get a job, CVS takes the time to call them. Citizens takes the time to call them. Does wonders for them.
Is it the lighting, or do you well up a little bit?
I do. It's very emotional. I do. Yeah. I'm passionate about what I'm doing.
By the way,
and what I'm doing is right. This is the right thing to do.
How much money you're making doing this?
It's 100% volunteer. We make no money. We have no staff. We have a group of volunteers who help me, and that's what we do.
Stay there. Regroup. When we come back, right? Stay with us. Wow. Yeah, it's called the Unemployment Office. A lot of you have seen it. Fortunately, it's a reality for too many folks, and it's been a tough economy in the like. Steve Colella is a guy that I've just met here on the set. You know, I saw this article in the paper and said, "This is a guy we got to talk to." You've been to the White House with your Job Club RI.
Yes, sir.
In 2012?
Yes, sir. September.
How'd you get there?
I was invited by the U.S. Department of Labor to come and speak about Job Club.
In front of what kind of group?
There were Job Club representatives there. There were senators, congressmen there. It was about 200 people.
And the theme of it was?
The impact that job clubs can have on the local regional economy.
Well, Job Club RI, are there many states that have them?
Well, they're trying to, the Obama administration is trying to develop 300 job clubs across the country. Most of the job clubs are connected at some level to the one-stop career centers or the Network Rhode Iowans or the Department of Labor's, which vary in degree of success.
So they're quasis in the middle of,
yes.
the bureaucracy
yes.
type of thing. Your Job Club RI is homegrown, yep. Completely, what's the word I'm looking for? It's
well, we're independent.
It's organic.
It's organic.
It's an organic organization.
Mm-hmm. Grassroots.
There you go. And so now, what started with 6 people in a library in West Warwick 4 or 5 years ago is now 1,000 people at least have come through the situation, and you're getting 66% of the people who complete your 6-week discussion into the job market.
Yes, sir.
It's incredible.
Yes, sir.
How much of the Rhode Island delegation was there in Washington when you were there?
None.
What do you mean? Where were they?
Well, when it was determined that we were going to go to the White House and we were invited, we sent a press release to all our constituents, delegates, and there was no response.
I'm going to ask Steve to come on the radio next week, Dan York, weekdays noon to 3, and spend an hour, take some phone calls. You're not just doing the, helping the homeless, not that the homeless aren't important in God's eyes and everybody's eyes, the typical blah, blah, blahs. There are middle-class Americans, Rhode Islanders, that have been suffering with having to relocate or restart themselves or reinvent themselves. That's who you are helping here.
Yes, sir. We turn no one away, but predominantly the folks that are coming to our program.
Respectable people with homes and mortgages and kids in college and
yes,
all
sir.
that kind of thing.
Yes, sir.
You were going to be a priest.
Yes, sir. You're the minister of jobs. You're like Father Jobs. Well, I create
Who
relationships.
else is doing this, Stephen?
Nobody. In the country. No one's doing this. No one's doing this.
And it's working.
It's working.
You know what I'd like to do? Not only do I want to bring you on the radio, I'd like to bring it back on the TV for a couple long-form shows. Can you bring some of the people that have been helped and see if they'll come over and testify a little bit?
We can ask.
You just ask, right? You know. All right. What's the bottom line of this? I could talk to you for 4 weeks. Never mind, 4 minutes per segment here. What's the moral of this story so far?
Many semi-skilled and skilled folks are good people, and they have lots to offer. They need an outlet. They need a vehicle. They need to be acknowledged. And what I'm trying to do is create relationships with major employers.
And you're doing it.
We're
Some
doing
33 employers are involved. Kevin, did we post the website? We've done that. To make sure we post it one more time, jobclubri.org. If you're looking for a gig, yes. But if you're looking for good people, that's the one thing. Companies, even in this sick economy, in this post-game recovery that we're supposedly having here, they still need to go find good people. They're precious commodities, yes?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
And you're finding them.
We are.
Diamonds in the rough.
Absolutely.
He went to the White House, and no one from Rhode Island showed up. That's a story for another day. Thanks for your work.
Thank you.
Right? We'll get him on the radio next week. You ought to have a reaction on your state of mind to this. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Your state of mind when we come back. The beauty of my last guest, Steve Colella, is that he's running a volunteer program. He's got a full-time job. He runs his program to try to get everybody employed. And the DLT director, Charlie Fogarty, says, if the state did it, it'd be millions and millions and millions of dollars. Bureaucracy is a beautiful thing, isn't it? We'll follow up on that great idea. Here's your state of mind. This is how you get in touch. 228-1886 is the phone number. Email me at stateofmind@myritv.com. Here's a voicemail that was left for us.
I've been watching your show, and I have one thing to say. I see smoke screens, and you're just as guilty as everybody else. Get these people in one room and ask them questions, okay? And show the American people how stupid these people can be, okay? Thank you.
I'm not sure what people were talking about. It sounded like that movie, I See Dead People. What was that movie from, Kev? The Sixth Sense. George is frustrated about something, but listen, when you're frustrated, tell us what you're frustrated about so that I can share your frustration with the people on my state of mind. We'll see you tomorrow night, 7:30, and tomorrow on the radio at noon on WPRO.